I'm Justin Boyd.
Tristan Jones.
And I don't have a beard anymore.
And we are the Watchers in the Basement. Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement, and welcome to Watchers Football Weekly, a podcast within a podcast, and a podcast that's all about the pigskin. We are here today to discuss Week 17 of the NFL season, which will continue tonight, or will end tonight, with the Lions taking on the 49ers. But we're going a little bit earlier because it's a holiday week, but there's plenty to talk about from the 15 games that happened and some college stuff too. So let's get right to it. The week kicked off on Christmas Day on Netflix with a doubleheader. Obviously, the Chiefs and Steelers were first up, and the Chiefs did it. They've now clinched the number one seed in the AFC playoffs. They're 15-1 after, a pretty dominating victory over the Steelers, 29-10. The Chiefs have had a lot of close games. The Christmas Day game was not a close one. Tristan, what's your assessment of the team right now and how that game played out?
Just plain and simple, they look like the best team in the league. This was the first. You can make the argument the Texans game, but more so, Steelers game was the first time that you saw offense, defense, and special teams all kind of coalescing at the same time. It's kind of working in all cylinders at the same time. You got Mahomes had his best game. Again, this is against a 10-win at the time division-leading team, which had one of the best defenses and definitely one of the best pass rushes in the entire league. And they shredded them. They completely shredded them. Offensively, what I've noticed about this team is that because a lot of the deficiencies that have happened over the year, they've had to transform and morph into different teams. They came into the league expecting to be a dynamic, throw the ball, big chunk play type of offense, reminiscent of them, 2018 to 2021. You lose two of your top receivers in Rashee Rice, Hollywood in the preseason, first play of the preseason. You don't have Pacheco after he gets hurt in the Cincinnati game. They've had to morph and so they became a ball control, efficient offense, don't put the defense in a bad position type of team. And they pretty much carried that until DeAndre Hopkins got there. And they still were a ball control defensive team, but they started to open up just a little bit. The offense week by week since Hopkins has gotten there has started to open up. The field has become more open for different guys. You start to see Kelsey start to get more involved as the year goes by. And then Hollywood comes back, and then I've seen a bunch of people say this. It's like all the offensive weapons are properly slotted. Hollywood is your guy that's going to threaten and take the top off the defense. DeAndre Hopkins is your 50-50, essentially possession receiver. He's overqualified to be a possession receiver. Xavier Worthy is your gadget guy who you can just kind of put in different spots, and he can turn a 3-yard gain into 10, a 10-yard gain into 15. And then all this is just leaving more space for Kelsey, right? And then you still got your two horses in the backfield with Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, with some complementary guys and Noah Gray, Justin Watson. You still got Juju. This is a team that is, again, kind of remorphing into what it wanted to be at the beginning of the season. This is just happening in week 16 and week 17 of the season. And they sit here now, again, number one seed, the ability to rest their guys for a while, getting healthy, maybe getting a couple more guys back. Jalen Watson, maybe. Andy Reid said maybe. It's a little far-fetched, but maybe. You're getting McCole Hardman back, which should help bolster your special teams, and another guy you can kind of run some gadget stuff for. They look like the best team in the league. They don't look like the most explosive offense, but they don't have to look like the most explosive offense because they also have the best scoring defense in the league. So they're as well equipped as any team in the league to play complementary football and have both sides of the ball peaking at the right time. It's a great day to be a Chiefs fan. I'll just be honest with you, man. That's the long or the short.
They're the new Patriots, basically. They just kind of morph into whatever. They transform to what they need to do. It's the Spurs,
The Spurs,
yeah. Great.
like that. The Spurs, you look back when they played the Suns in the '05, Western Conference Finals.
Right.
That scored the Suns, right? Like, and then they can morph back and say, okay, now we'll be a ball control. We'll take it all the way down to the 23 seconds on the shot clock and get a great shot every single time. Like, they can be whatever they need to be, and that's what makes it so dangerous.
Yeah, and Frank, I think we saw that kind of in the Christmas Day game because you had the first half. It looked like is going to be a Chiefs Steelers like nail biter. It's a very close first half. Kansas City dominated the second half.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you beat this team. I mean, the main weakness of this 2024 season was just health and just getting back healthy. Now that you get all your pieces back, I don't know how you beat them. Now you're giving the best coach in the NFL 3 weeks to rest, 3 weeks to game plan, the best defensive coordinator in the NFL 3 weeks to game plan, the best quarterback in the NFL 3 weeks to rest off that ankle. It's a recipe for success. And going into 2025, Rasheed Rice will be back. Jen Watson will be back. Like, you're just adding more pieces to the monster that is the Kansas City Chiefs. Now you're giving us 3 weeks, and then another great thing about it to add to the Chiefs' success is that with Pittsburgh losing and Baltimore winning, now the Bills and the Ravens will play each other in the divisional round. So we want not that we're afraid to play both teams. I mean, we did last year both times on the road, but now the road's even easier now. I'm not saying any schedule is easy, but like to play 2 games at home and then play one or the other in the AFC Championship, and then play Pittsburgh and Houston possibly in the divisional round. It's like, bro, like, sign me up for Super Bowl number 4. It's a great day to be a Chiefs fan, like Tristan said, and with Pat getting healthier and healthier, I don't know how you beat this team. And now Kelsey looks like he's back. Nick Wright said that probably to Kelsey's career, you probably got about 4 or 5 great Kelsey games. And now with Hollywood back in the fold now, the depth of target now for Kelsey downfield, he'll be able to operate, intermediate with no double teams. If they play zone, they can kill you with Hop and Kelsey underneath. If they play too high, you have all the intermediate space to work 15 yards and in. You're just working with so much space now, and it's going to help the running game as well. Like Pacheco in that running game will see no 8-man fronts this January and this February. Like there'll be so much space, and whether Tuning plays left tackle or left guard, the offensive line is going to see so much less pressure because you can't really blitz or put 8 in the box anymore. Now that Hollywood's back, and Andy's holding things back for January. Like, I mean, that was a pretty elementary playbook over the last month, and now adding a few more wrinkles going to January 17th or 18th when we finally play, you better see a full arsenal of plays that you haven't seen all year.
Yeah, you mentioned it real quick, but like, one, you can't blitz these guys. You can't blitz them. And what we started to see again, beginning with that Texans game, is 4 wide receiver sets. You saw some 5 receiver sets, empty sets. Like, and they are lethal in empty sets. Extremely lethal. Mahomes is getting the ball out of his hands like less than 3 seconds, and like his QBR or QB rating is skyrockets. It's almost perfect when he's getting the ball out of his hands that quickly. Like, again, they have the answers. They have an answer for every question. So, okay, hey, we'll press. We'll go man. Okay, please go man against Hollywood Brown. Travis Kelce, DeAndre Hopkins. We still got Xavier Worthy. You can bring him out the backfield. He's just gonna come, run. Go in motion, get a quick hitch, and he's gone. Like, sit in zone. You know what Patrick Mahomes will do to you if you allow him to sit in zone. Just kind of pick apart that zone. The defense had for as good as his defense is, like, they had like a mini lull kind of in the middle of the season, and that's over. Like, they're back to dominating. Like I said, they have an answer for everything. The way to beat them is you have to win the turnover battle. Guess who doesn't turn the ball over in the playoffs ever, right? It's Chiefs, specifically Patrick Mahomes. Even if they lose the turnover battle, they still are what, 60%. They still have, 60% winning percentage. So your quarterback, you have to have an alien at quarterback, and that quarterback has to play like a Greek god to beat them in the playoffs. Only in my estimation, only 2 quarterbacks in the entire league have the potential to do that, and only one I actually trust to do that in the playoffs, and that's Josh Allen. So it's set up for the Chiefs to like make a great run to their 3rd straight Super Bowl. One more thing before we move on, like we talk about rest. The big thing for me is mental rest. Like they've been in it. They've been in it essentially for 3 straight years.
Right.
Really more than that, if we're being honest. We're talking about like just making deep runs. So like having this 3-week rest to just kind of chill and kind of look at the landscape and, get back in the lab and like kind of sharpen some things up on the practice field. The only thing that keeps them from a Super Bowl is like them just being a little bit too rusty, which I'm not worried about at all. This team is too experienced, so
yeah,
looking great.
And guess what?
Go ahead, Frank.
And guess what? Now we get turnovers too. Like, bro, we got 12 turnovers in the last 4 games. Like, and don't get it twisted. Charles Omenihu has unlocked Dana. He's unlocked Karlaftis. He's unlocked the whole pass rush. So now you can't just focus on Chris Jones. You can't just focus on George Karlaftis. With Charles Omenihu back, it just creates so much dynamics with your exotic blitz packages, with your front 4, which are stunning. It's a good day, man. The defense is finally going to be able to reach its potential. Well, at least the front 7 at least. And if Jalen Watson gets back, it's just you can cancel fucking Christmas if he gets back too.
Next Christmas, because we just got through Christmas. So the next one. Sticking with the Chiefs just for a second, this is a team that's chasing history. They're trying to be the first team to ever win 3 straight Super Bowls, and they got the bye. They're 15-1, but they got one more game left. I don't think the starters are going to play much against the Broncos on Sunday. However, they are facing a team that's trying to make the playoffs, a team that's a division foe. Do you think, and Tristan, I'll go to you first. Do you think it's important for them to try to win 16 games and become the second ever team to win 16 regular season games along with the Patriots of 07 or 08 or whatever year that was? Is that important to them because this is a team that seems like they're trying to set all the records or break all the records?
Yes, I think it's important, but like I cap it at like 20% importance because like you said, I like when teams actively seek greatness.
I do too.
Not stumble into it. Like I like that the Warriors are like, yeah, we want to get 73 wins. Who the fuck doesn't want to?
Right.
Who doesn't want to win as many games as possible? Right. I like that. That's their mentality on the week. I think they expect to win on Sunday. I think they absolutely expect to win with Carson Wentz and whatever starters are playing or not playing. So I do think it has some importance, but I don't think it's important enough to guide their actions. I think they're going to rest the majority of these guys. And the starters who do play, I think you'll get a quarter and a half out of them. It's going to look like the last preseason game essentially. But I do think, for me as a fan, I think that's really where the conversation is. I want them to get 16 wins. I want them to be the first 19-win team. You know what I'm saying? So that's important to me. But also, when we think about from their perspective, they played so much more football than every other team in the NFL over the last really 6 years that importance has to drop down a little bit. Like, yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be cool to get that 16 win. And again, I think Andy Reid and Spags and Nagy are going to coach those guys to put them in a position to win on Sunday.
Yeah.
Don't really care about the results and who gets in and who doesn't. But it's not going to guide who they play. Like, I think they have a plan on these are who we want to play and start, and this is how long we want them to play. Whatever happens after that, we'll just have to rely on who's out there on the field. But yeah, I absolutely want 16-1. I'm going to look at them as a 16-win team regardless because I'm going to count the bye as well. So yeah, it's important to me. It's semi-important to them.
Yeah. Frank, what's your take? Because let's say they don't go for it, right? And they finish 15-2. In the NFC, you're probably going to have a 15-2 team. Either the Vikings or the Lions likely is going to be 15-2. Then you'd have not that that's going to determine any kind of playoff home field, the Super Bowl. Obviously, the Super Bowl has a site, but to me, don't you want to kind of put your stamp on the season and say we have the best record in the league? Not that they give out awards or anything like that. Maybe they should to make the regular season mean more. But what's your take on going for the 16th win or resting and preparing for the games that really matter?
For me, so we had this conversation about a month ago, or I think I brought it up, and the point that I brought up was if we got past Buffalo, I don't know if you remember this conversation. I was like,
yeah, I remember. Yeah.
17-0 is on the radar. That's what I said at that point. And that would have been beautiful. But for me, the 3P matters more than anything.
Yeah.
Like I get it, 16 wins is great, first 19-win team, cool. But I don't want to sacrifice anything that would take away from our health. Like we've been injured all year long, going back to week 1 of the preseason when Halloween went down, and it's just been a cascade of injuries since then. I would rather just rest our starters, and if Wentz and if those guys can beat Denver, cool. I mean, hey, as a football fan, I would love to see Buffalo against Cincinnati in the wild card round. That would be great to see as a football fan. I would love that, but I don't want to expend anybody's health for 16 wins next Sunday. I don't. I'd rather rest all. I'll rather. I mean, it's a numbers game, right? Like it's a 53-man roster. You can't rest everybody. I get that, but this Sunday, if I'm Veach and I'm Andy, I'm looking at our practice squad. I'm looking at guys that we can sign for this week and put into the fray. I'm looking at playing the young guys that need extra reps. And if you can win with those guys, cool. But I want to see Pat, CJ, Kelsey, Hop, Pacheco. I want to see those guys in street clothes or in the club seats or club box. I don't want those guys anywhere near the field. But I mean, if they can win with Wentz at quarterback, cool. Because I'm not fresh to Cincinnati. I've been reading the message boards and guys saying, "Oh, Chiefs are ducking anybody. Chiefs are trying to duck Burrow. He's having this great season." Look, man, we won 3 Super Bowls in 5 years. We ain't ducking nobody. Like we're not afraid of nobody. So yeah, we can win with the backups, cool. But I don't want to risk any of our starters for 16 wins.
Yeah, that makes sense. We'll see how it plays out on Sunday. So back to Christmas Day, there was another game. Well, there was another game on Christmas Day. You had the Ravens taking on the Texans here in Houston. The halftime show was amazing with Beyonce. We could talk about that maybe more than the actual game. But let's get to that game. The Ravens just absolutely manhandled the Texans 31-2. It could have been 50-2 if the Ravens wanted to make it that. Really poor showing from the Texans. And Tristan, I don't know about you, but it seems like we're just kind of counting down the days to, do we learn? Is it the Steelers that get to come to town and beat the Texans in the first round, or is it the Chargers or whoever gets to come? But somebody's coming here and beating the Texans, I think. I would wager quite a bit on that. What's your thoughts on the Texans?
It's hilarious because all 3 of the teams you just named, Texans, Steelers, Chargers, are all like one and done teams to me. So if Chargers or Steelers, it would be a gift because I think either one of those teams would beat the Texans in round 1. And again, I don't think either of those teams are ones that if they win a playoff game, that's a successful season for them. Oh yeah. Period. All of those are one and done teams. I don't care how much the Chargers put up on Denver. You're a one and done team. Period. So as far as the Texans go, man, that was disappointing. That was embarrassing. If for no other reason, you can't. So we were watching the game. I was at my mom's house. Grandmother, aunt, brother, his girlfriend, wife, our kids were there. And it's already bad enough because what we're there for. We're there for Beyonce. Hoping to see a good game between 2 playoff teams, 2 of my favorite quarterbacks. But we're there for Beyonce. They got their ass handed to them in front of Beyonce. Yep. And that's the most disappointing part of that. It was I don't know. We could have a micro conversation about that game. I don't know how much we get from that. I think the larger conversation needs to be about the Texans as a whole, CJ Stroud, and like I think most of this is that the Texans are failing CJ Stroud. Some of the stuff is out of your control. Tank Dell is hurt again. Stephon Diggs is hurt again. The run game has been off and on. Their O-line situation has gotten worse as the season has gone. At first, you had like isolated problems with your tackles. Tunsil, the penalties, wasn't playing well. Green on the other side. Their interior offensive line, interior guys, that's really been like their biggest weakness. And CJ is struggling and suffering because of that. He doesn't have enough time to throw. It's getting to the point where it looks like, Sam Darnold against the Patriots in 2019, where he's seeing ghosts, where he's not comfortable. He's missing throws that he never misses. Like his thing is accuracy, pinpoint accuracy. And he's missing wide open guys, even when the pocket is clean. That tells me like a lot of this stuff is in his head and it's affecting his mechanics. It's affecting the way he's seeing the field. All that is bad. There's nothing else to talk about the Texans until that gets fixed, right? Their defensive secondary is okay. Stingley is played like maybe an all-pro. Kamari Lassiter. He's played really well. Outside of that, like you're getting off and on play from your secondary. The defense is never going to be great enough to make up for the offense struggling at this point in their franchise, in their trajectory. So they have to do whatever it takes to get CJ Stroud back on track. Whatever they need to do to kind of like put some Band-Aid or tape on that offensive line, just to give him enough time to feel comfortable. Yeah. Right. I trust that CJ can make your basic, QB throws if he has enough time, or at least decent time. But right now he's running for his life and he's regressing a little bit as a quarterback. And I'm starting to worry about him like long term. Like a lot of guys don't come back from this experience. And, I don't know if he's losing confidence in himself, but he's definitely lost confidence in that line. And in the offense as a whole. And the Ravens just exploited that. Like, they got up a couple scores and they just pinned their ears back. And it was really uncomfortable to watch. You're right. It was uncomfortable to watch before Beyonce, and you kind of forget about it. You're in this euphoria of, watching her do her thing. And then you come back, it's like, oh, shit, it's more ass whooping. They have to fix that line. Otherwise, again, they are literally limping into the playoffs, and it's going to be not even a quick one-and-done exit. Like, that game might be over in the first quarter, like this game was.
Yeah, I mean, with CJ, it's like whenever he does have, I mean, they're all over him, but whenever he does have time, he seems to hold on the ball too long, and it's
he's missing 7-yard out routes,
right,
like directly in his face. You know what I'm saying? Like, even like the proverbial, I can make that throw. Like, no, you couldn't. But like when you're watching it, you're like, man, drop that, boom, boom, and throw it. Like, he's missing that. Like, and he's throwing it over guys' head. He's throwing it 2 yards in front of guys. Like those, if he's missing your downfield 50-50 plays, okay, cool. Your intermediate 50-50 plays, cool. But like right in front, like that tells me like there's a confidence loss somewhere.
Yeah, no doubt. Frank, what are your thoughts on the Texans Christmas Day game, if you want to call it that?
Yeah, so I went back. So I thanks to Tristan's YouTube and his NFL package, I went back and watched 3 games last year of CJ Stroud. I watched the Bengals game last year. I watched the Baltimore Ravens game, not the playoff game, but the regular season game last year, and I watched the Browns game, and because I wanted to see what is going on, what's been the hiccup here, and Tristan's right, the confidence is not there. But another wrinkle too that I wanna mention is that coaching fucking matters, man. It really matters. And when I watched that offense from last year, and I watched how confident CJ looked, and I watched the offense this year, the concepts are the same. It's the same. Like there are no added wrinkles. There are no added concepts to the offense. Bobby Slowick, and I don't know who the QB coach is, but they're not making adjustments and you can tell by the play calling. It's very mundane, and it's like a carbon copy from last year. And one thing about NFL defenses, these guys are fucking smart, man. They watch film not just from like your year before, but they watch film in college. They watch players' tendencies, what they like to do, what they can't do, and they exploit that. And as a coaching staff, how you counter that, you have to counter that. You have to think 2 steps ahead. You have to withhold plays. You have to add wrinkles. You have to put players in position to be successful. And they never adjusted from last year's success. And it looked like Slowick. It looks almost arrogant, like with Slowick. Like I brought CJ in. I'm the reason why CJ is so good, and like I'm the reason why the offense is so explosive, and I'm this hot shot coaching candidate, and I'm up there with Ben Johnson and all these guys. And like, no, you're not, because when you watch Ben Johnson's offense and you watch Slowick's offense, Ben Johnson, they run so many sets in Detroit. I get lost. Like Ben Johnson's offense looks like Sean Payton's offense from the mid 2000s. They have so many sets and so many formations within those sets that you get lost. It becomes football porn. And with Slowick, it's the same missionary thing every fucking night. It's like there's no creativity at all in his offense. And I think CJ is struggling because of that. And then on top of that, you have the bad offensive line play. You have, losing your top 2 receivers. They're not supplementing things to help CJ. They got Deontay Johnson in waivers, I think, last week, and he's supposed to suit up this week. But it's like when you lost Diggs back in October, you should have went ahead and got a guy to replace him. Part of the reason why we thought CJ was going to take this jump was because of the new weaponry on top of the new play calling. But they're not doing CJ justice by giving him weapons and giving him help and giving him reinforcements. And I think for CJ to really get back to where he was last year, you got to change the offensive play calling and by turn probably change Slowick and get rid of him, because he's not getting better as a play caller. It's the same thing from last year, and CJ's struggling because of that.
Yeah, they're going to have to do something, especially like, this game on Sunday, they played at Tennessee. They have really nothing to play for. They're locked in at the 4 seed. They lost to Tennessee earlier this year. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they're probably not going to put out much of an effort. Even if they did, they probably wouldn't beat Tennessee on Sunday. And then you're going to have a loss in the playoff game. You're going to be 9-9 for the year. That's, I think, right? 9-9. Yeah, because they're 9-7 right now. So not a great second year after last year, having the rookie of the year and having the coach of the year and getting the playoffs, win the division. And this year,
they better pray for Pittsburgh. They better pray that they get Pittsburgh. I know Pittsburgh right now offensively, they're, Russ is struggling a little bit, and George Pickens is he's a fucking 12-year-old preteen out there with emotional and shit. Like, they're going through their own issues. So like, that's probably your best chance. You play anybody else, you probably gonna get dusted in the first round.
We've talked about it a little bit, but let's talk about the halftime show, because it was a Super Bowl level halftime show from Beyonce. Honestly, and obviously I knew this was going to happen and we'd heard about it for a few weeks. I didn't think it was going to be like the production value that it was. Like it looked incredible. Obviously she looked great. Like everything like worked so well. And I was honestly like surprised. I was like, man, whoever gets the halftime show next year for the Netflix Christmas doubleheader is going to have to really step it up, because the bar is very high.
Oh yeah. I could talk for another hour about Beyonce. Like, she's our greatest living performer. Obviously one of the greatest ever, and she just continues to cement that. We went back and watched the Homecoming, the Beachella from 2018 on Netflix, and you just kind of see the progression. She actually threw a lot of elements from that performance into the halftime. But so statistically, both the Ravens-Texans game and the Chiefs-Steelers game averaged about 24 million viewers.
Right.
That was like the average. during Beyonce's halftime show, it peaked at 27 million. Right. So like more people watched Beyonce's halftime show than they did, two games between literally 4 playoff teams, essentially. Yeah. Like she has that level of pull. She has that level of, I don't know, excellence that like it's one of the few like monotonous events that we have where everybody, like those cultural events that everybody's tuned in and everybody's talking about it, whether you're a big fan of Beyonce or you're not, like you're going to sit there and you're going to watch and you're going to critique it and you're going to post about it, you're going to, whatever. And she has that. I mean, the bigger issue is here is like, I don't even know if the NFL considers the NBA when they make these decisions, but yeah, I don't like the flex is to be like, hey, we'll just throw Beyonce and have a halftime show, like, right. Like imagine like I don't think the NBA is like, hey, it's a big game between the Nuggets and the Lakers, whatever. Let's have Red Panda, some shit. Like it just doesn't have. It's not the same flex. But this is another step for the NFL in really their long-term strategy of like dominating the entire calendar. Yeah. I think there was a point where the NBA, because of like trade rumors and free agencies and all these different things, they kind of start to bite into that. Yeah. But the NFL is like they're coming back with a vengeance, man. like if there's an area where they can like add more or like for growth, and I've ranted about like human beings and our need for growth and how that kind of ruins things a lot of ways. But like the NFL, they have the luxury of just not really giving a shit. They're just saying, hey, we have an opportunity for excess, and there's no better excessive thing than Beyonce. And it was amazing.
And they took Christmas Day from the NBA. I mean, they did it a couple of years ago, but this year especially, they really just like planted their flag and said, Christmas is ours. Like,
very quickly, short rant on why I don't think that's as big a deal as a lot of people making it out to be. Yes, it is true. The NFL has kind of impeded a little bit on the NBA's big day, which is Christmas. Is a lot of people have said, hey, that's the day where
the season should start. Maybe
it
did 1 year. Yeah,
I don't agree with that at all. Yeah. We could talk about that at some point, but like we also live in a society now where like people, real quick, Netflix. An executive for Netflix or multiple people from Netflix have come out and said, I read an article about this a few days ago, where they said, hey, Netflix's goal is no longer to like keep you attached to what, they're showing, what you're watching. Netflix wants their content to be things that go on in the background, because Netflix has made the calculation that people don't just sit there without their phone, without their iPad and just lock in on one event, one movie, one show. People usually, got music playing, they're cooking, they're whatever, having, something like Netflix has become more of a background thing. Right. So, and this isn't really just specific to Netflix, any streaming platform has become more background. And it's like they understand, these streaming sites understand that we're doing multiple things at one time. So like, there's NFL games on. There's also NBA games on. What are most people doing? Watching both. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's harder to flip back. Like I can't flip between YouTube TV and Netflix like without some type of complication, but I can watch Netflix on one screen and have the NBA playing on another screen. Right now, is my attention divided? Of course, but like NFL and the NBA don't really care if my attention's divided. They care
that numbers, it counts.
That's all that matters. So like, I don't think it's a big deal. Like I watch 4 to 5 NFL games on at one particular time. I watch 4 NBA games on at a time. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm trained to look at multiple things at one time. So like, I think more people are like that than not.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. I just think that like there was kind of like a gentleman's agreement back in the day with the leagues, like, hey, you know what, NFL Thanksgiving's your day, because the NBA used to have games on Thanksgiving. I remember even back like when Kobe was playing, like I remember TNT on Thanksgiving night one year had like it was a Supersonics versus the Lakers game, and they used to have a late Thanksgiving day or Thanksgiving evening game, and that was a special kind of deal. Not every year, because it's always on Thursday. And usually, Thursday's a big day for the NBA, or at least it was before Thursday Night Football scared TNT to go to Tuesdays. but it's just like it was the NBA's day forever. And for a lot of people, going back to like the 90s, like that might be the first game you watch all season, because that back in the day, that was the first game that NBC would broadcast of the season, was the Christmas Day matchup of the Bulls and Celtics, or the Lakers and whoever. Like that was a big day for the league. Obviously the world has changed tremendously, but yeah, I don't know. The NFL, like, they shouldn't have everything, like, but they have a better product right now, so I get it. And speaking of just like about the TV product, let's talk about just Netflix, the broadcast. This is their first ever broadcast, doubleheader. They had 2 games. And Frank, what'd you think about how their broadcast played? They used a lot of, you know, familiar announcers and analysts and stuff from other networks, but like, what was the Netflix experience like for you watching the NFL games on the platform?
So I was at the game. I went to the Mavericks game that day, so I didn't get to watch like the pregame stuff and all of that. I was able to log in and have it on my phone while I was watching the game. I will say this: Mina Kimes, man, Mina Kimes showed the world that she's that bitch. Respectfully, like she is so good. Like because like what they did, they replayed the game on NFL Network that night, and I watched the whole game in totality, and I watched the pregame, and she was schooling people on accident with her football knowledge amongst other NFL veterans and pros and like legends. And if I'm Netflix, outside of the production, because you knew the Chiefs were going to just bring a draw just because they're the Chiefs, right? The polarizing, all of that. But if I'm a Netflix executive and I saw what the pregame did and what she did, I'm throwing her the bag. Like I think she can spearhead, be the lead of an NFL pregame show and kick ass. And watching that, man, and I was reading a lot of the articles about her performance, and she might have been the best performance as far as just the NFL pregame, as far as structure and analyzation over anybody, and that's including Fox, ESPN, CBS. Like, she killed it, and she might have been the best part of that performance outside of the Chiefs winning the actual game.
Yeah. Tristan, what are your thoughts on the broadcast, Netflix, the presentation? How was it? Was it any different from a regular, like if a game were on Fox or CBS or Amazon, or was it just your assessment?
For me, just kind of piggybacking on what Frank said, like it seemed like a more intimate like broadcast, like the conversation seemed like more minimalist than you see on like Fox and CBS and ESPN and those pregame shows where like everything's a lot more animated. This just seemed like they kind of locked in on the topic, and like there was a concerted effort to like get insights from everybody on the table, which I did appreciate. The thing I did not appreciate, I'm tired of studios with this 5 men group like this.
6, 7, 8. You got people on people's shoulders. 8. Yeah, I know it's so ridiculous. Yeah,
bro, I was watching like old clips of like I don't know. I just got on this like old Chiefs, after they won a big playoff game or Super Bowl, just kind of looking at like the commentary, and it was like a Get Up episode after they won one of those Super Bowls playoff games from a few years ago. It was like Pat McAfee and Greenberg. It's like 8 people, Bart Scott, and there's 8 people on the damn table. And Get Up, like that table's not that damn big. So Netflix before the Chiefs game had Kay Adams, bless Kay Adams. It had Drew Brees, Robert Griffin, Manti Te'o, and then Mina Kimes at the end, and then Drew Brees left once the Chiefs game started. So it was 4. It was a huge difference between that 5 and then the 4. And I would love for them to chop that down to 3. Like I could have just done Kay Adams, Mina Kimes, and Robert Griffin, RG3. So that was my only gripe. But like I said, I did feel like it was a more intimate experience. I felt like there was less of this pressure to like have this big bombastic broadcast where you're doing like 8, different segments. And it's like, hey, they did a great job of just kind of talking about the game and like actual concepts and stuff like that. So I thought it was a good broadcast. I just hate that they kind of fell into the same trap that every other network does of more people, more voices. I need 3 voices, like 1 host, 2 analysts. That's enough. You know what I'm saying? I like my in-game broadcast with 2 people, Troy, Joe Buck, you know, Tom Brady and my dude. I forgot his name, but like they're starting
Kevin,
to get better.
what's his name? Kevin Blah to the
Kevin, yeah, it is Kevin something.
Burkhardt?
KB, Burkhardt. There we go.
Burkhardt, yeah.
Burkhardt.
I appreciate Jim Nance, Tony Romo. Like 2 people. Less is better. So I hope in the future Netflix sees that and sees how better the broadcast, at least in my opinion, got once Drew Brees, went to wherever Drew Brees was doing, and just kind of stick with that 3, maybe 4 at the most.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think 3 is like perfect if you have the host, you have the former player, former coach, analyst, and then you have the media analyst person. Because oftentimes, let's be real, the former coach, former player, sometimes they're good, but most of the time they're not the best. So like that's why like Mina Kimes can really shine because this is her thing, right? So like she has podcasts, she's on ESPN, she does all this stuff, and like that's just like with Zach Lowe when he was doing the NBA stuff, and they've been doing this forever. With you have like the media guy who has the information, who has some insight. Like that's when these things really work well. I think for me, for the Netflix broadcast, the highest thing I can say about it is if I didn't know it was the first time doing it, I don't think I would have known because it felt like this was like the 10th year or the 5th year, like a tradition. But I thought the broadcast was pretty smooth. I watched some of the pregame. I watched all the postgame from the second game, and I thought it was really well done. And I'm sure they're going to have more next year. They'll probably have more than just a Christmas Day doubleheader. They'll probably have a couple of games sprinkled throughout the season. I wouldn't be surprised, but all in all, pretty good stuff on Netflix. I also enjoyed the "Is it cake" thing at the end of each game where they have the cake footballs and trying to get the players to take a bite out of the cake. So
let me tell you something about Black people. And that's we are not just eating just any old thing just because you put it in front of us and in front of us.
That was uncomfortable, man.
Like that's just not what we do, man.
Jamie Erdahl had to take one for the team. She's like, well, if Lamar and Derek Henry won't take a bite, I guess I'll do it because we got to do it because Netflix has got a gun to our head. Like, it is cake. Eat it, I don't know. I enjoyed the little tie-ins to their stuff, to their properties, their IP, even though I'm not a big fan of much of Netflix IP. But moving on, let's get back to the field. Let's talk about the AFC playoff picture because it's really starting to come into focus here. We got KC obviously has clinched the number 1 spot. They'll have the bye. Buffalo clinched the number 2 spot when they just absolutely just dogpiled on Aaron Rodgers and the Jets on Sunday. Just a horrible, horrible game to watch. Baltimore now is in the 3 spot. They're not locked in, but they're leading the AFC North. You've got the Texans locked in at number 4. Right now, Pittsburgh is in the 5 spot. You got the Chargers at 6, and Denver. And by the way, the Chargers also clinched a playoff berth on Saturday with their win over the Patriots. And then basically all it's left to decide is the 7th seed. And you've got Denver right now in the pole position, but you've got Miami and Cincinnati are still alive. And Cincinnati is still alive based on that overtime battle against the Broncos on Saturday. So, Frank, what did you take away from that Broncos-Bengals game? Who do you think is getting the 7th seed? Do you think it's the Broncos? Do you think it's the Bengals? Or maybe it's the Dolphins?
I think it's the Broncos because the Bengals need help. They need a win.
Yeah.
They need to win against Pittsburgh. Plus, they need Denver to lose. Plus, they need Miami to lose. So that's just a lot, man. That's just a lot going on. So even if Denver loses, you're hoping that Miami loses to New York. And I don't know about y'all, that Jets team is done. Like you got receivers asking to be traded post game. Like it's a wrap. I don't see Miami losing to them. Even if it's Aaliyah Tua, they could start whoever. They can start me a quarterback. I don't think they're gonna lose to the Jets. I'm excited, man. I think the AFC playoffs is gonna be exhilarating. Yeah. You mean to tell me I might get Lamar and Josh in the 2nd fucking round? Bro, I'm not going fucking nowhere. I'm catering food that day. I'm having my blunt ready. I'm gonna have a ball that day, bro. I can't fucking wait. AFC's gonna be just a shitstorm of just excitement. But yeah, I think Denver's that last seed, and you'll see Denver and Buffalo most likely in the first round.
Yeah. Tristan, same question for you. Who do you think grabs that final spot in the AFC?
I think if I had to rank, I'm going to say Denver. I'm going to say Miami, and then I'd say Cincinnati. Like, just for Cincinnati, there's too much stuff has to happen. Like the Broncos, who I think are if not a good team, they're right on the cusp of being a good team. I think it would be hard pressed to imagine them as, I think they'll open up as 8.5 point favorites over the Chiefs. That line's going to move to like 10 to 12 after, the Chiefs announce who they're sitting. It'd be hard pressed to see them losing that game. But if they do, you still got to count on the Dolphins losing. Like the Bengals, if you allow me to go on a very, very short rant about the MVP.
Please.
This is why, I can't take this Joe Burrow as MVP thing, because yes, the Cincinnati Bengals defense is horrid. Yes, Joe Burrow has had some amazing performances throwing the ball, specifically to bring them back to this point to where they're on the cusp of making the playoffs. Joe Burrow also fucked off that Patriots game, and that might be the difference between them making the playoffs and not making the playoffs, and that has to matter. Yeah. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and to a much lesser degree, Lamar Jackson, they all have a game on their resume from this season to where they were absolutely shitty, just completely shitty, and actually actively help cost their teams these games. Tell you who does not have one of those games, but we're not going to talk about them. So I can't take that seriously, especially when you look at Joe Burrow versus Baker Mayfield, and statistically they're about the same.
Yeah.
Statistically they're about the same, except the Bucs have one more win. Yeah. Without and the Bucs lost Mike Evans for a period of time with his hamstring. They lost Godwin. They lost so much of their offensive weaponry, and here they are on the verge of still making the playoffs. With Atlanta losing, so I can't take Joe Burrow for MVP seriously, at all. Yes, we can acknowledge that he's had an amazing offensive season, but we can kind of leave it there. That's your reward. It's hey, bro, you balled out. Congratulations, and we can kind of move on from that.
I just get tired of people want to celebrate mediocrity and put lipstick on a pig and call it greatness. You have 8 fucking losses, bro.
Yeah.
You have 8 losses. My MVP would never have 8 losses and be considered MVP. You're a game of you're 500 right now. You have to win. Think about this. You have to win and get help twice to get into the playoffs. That's not MVP. That's not MVP season to me. You need so much help. You need a wish upon a star to get into the playoffs. That right there, you're not MVP. You had a great offensive season, yes. As far as offensive numbers go, great season. But MVP raises the level of player of guys around you. MVP means that at a shadow of a doubt, when shit is falling apart, you are the main constant to bring constant success and brilliance when we need you most. And that just hasn't been Joe Burrow. Now, is he a brilliant talent? Of course he is. He's great. I get it. They have issues with their defense and the offensive line. They can't run the ball. I understand all of that. So did Pat Mahomes, and he has 15 wins. So I don't want to hear this MVP chant of of a team who has 8 losses. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, winning's got to be a part of the MVP, right? You got to count that. I mean, this is not baseball where, I've mentioned this before, where Mike Trout and Angels finished 42 games behind the Astros and he won the MVP. And it's how valuable was he if he finished 42 games behind a team in his own division? Didn't even sniff the playoffs, much less you get close to your division. Obviously, football's a little bit different, but
I can understand with baseball because it's literally an individual it's an individual game wrapped within a team sport. Like you can be really valuable to your team's output in baseball and then not equate to wins because there's just so many areas that one specific player can touch. In football, even if you say, okay, we have a bad defense. Like, okay, we can show you quarterbacks that have won MVP with a bad defense.
Yeah.
Pat, 2018, bad defense. Like MVP. It is with the opportunities that you have as an offensive player, knowing that you have a bad defense, can you maximize that? So that means you can't turn the ball over late, in the fourth quarter or in overtime against Baltimore. You can't have the completely offensively inept game against the Patriots. You can't not score on certain possessions against the Commanders when you need to. Like these things matter. You know what I'm saying? We can say, okay, yeah, you have a bad defense, but what did you do to overcome that? And if you don't have enough to overcome that and you still have a stellar season, hey, you had a stellar season. Like you couldn't overcome that. Beautiful. We're not giving you an MVP vote for that. That doesn't make sense to me. So value has to lead towards something.
Yeah.
Like we say wins are not a QB stat. I totally agree. I do think that quarterbacks have an exorbitant amount of impact over wins. And your elite quarterbacks, 1,000% have their hand on each part of a win. Great defense, bad defense, mediocre defense, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like they either protecting the ball, they either give you efficient drives, or they're putting up an exorbitant amount of points to overcome that bad defense. Which one has Joe Burrow done? I would say none.
Yeah.
They put up a lot of points, but not enough to overcome the bad defense. Two things can be true. You had an excellent season that you just wasn't excellent enough to overcome this, thorn in your team's side. You don't get an MVP vote for that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And it's this generation of prognosticators and analysts are doing this. I've been watching football for a long time. I've never heard anybody talk about Matthew Stafford that way when he was going 7-9, 5,000-yard seasons. I never heard people talk about Drew Brees that way when he's going 6-11 with 5,000 yards, 45 touchdowns. Nobody said that they were MVPs. Why are we trying to change the narrative now for this guy? I don't understand. I don't get it. There's been plenty of quarterbacks who put up big numbers who didn't win, and we didn't try to exalt them as they should win the MVP. No, you have to fucking win. It's the ultimate team sport. If you're not adding the bottom line of winning, what the fuck are we talking about?
Yeah, no, good point. And I think with the Bengals, for me, it's would the Bengals being in the playoffs be more fun than the Broncos? Of course it would be. The Bengals are a flashy team. You've got Burrow, you've got Chase, you got all these weapons that Higgins, all these guys that can put up points. But there's also part of me that's what the Broncos have been in that spot all year long, basically. To me, they're more deserving. Now you have to obviously finish the season, but the Bengals have been sub 500 until Saturday when they got to 500. So to me, there's something to be said for that too. They're just kind of barely, they're barely in it. Like I said, there's so many things that have to happen for them to make it even now that they're back to 500.
And they crawled at 500. They should have lost that game. They fucked off the time management. Zach Taylor he's coaching like an 8-year-old kid playing Madden. And then they missed a fucking chip in field goal and they should have lost that game. Yeah. They lost that game 4 or 5 times in that fourth quarter in overtime. And Joe Burrow had to they had to be aggressive and throw a touchdown to win the game. But it's with all that being said, it's look what you got to crawl to 500. I'm not going to exalt you as an MVP candidate. I'm sorry.
And just to put a bow on it, that Denver game, the Denver win from Saturday, was the first team that they beat that would be a playoff team. Yeah. They beat nobody else that would be a playoff team. Literally nobody else. So you had a wonderful, wonderful season offensively. You feasted on cupcakes the entire year and got gifted essentially a couple times a win against Denver. So I can't do it.
That's a good point. You're so Mahomes, Lamar twice. You're 0-4. Allen as well. You're 0-4 against all the top quarterbacks in your own conference. No, I'm good. Move on.
Yeah. Let's move over to the NFC where still it's kind of similar to the AFC where we've only got one week left, so that most of the spots are claimed. But the very top spot is very much up for grabs. You've got right now Minnesota, who got the win over Green Bay yesterday. They're 14-2. You've got Detroit, who's 13-2. They're playing tonight against San Francisco. They play next week on Sunday Night Football, the final regular season game of the season. And it's likely going to be two 14-2 teams from the same division battling for not only the division, but the number one spot in the NFC. And to get a bye, the loser will be the 5th seed and will play on the road, likely in Tampa Bay. In Tampa, Tristan, this is like unprecedented. Like this late in the season, to have two teams, they're going to have 14 wins, 13 or 14 wins going into the final game. Pretty crazy stuff.
And the loser will be the 5 seed.
Yeah, exactly.
That's wild. Like if you're Detroit and
yeah.
you've been like this dominant
right
over the course of the year, and you've only lost 2 games, literally 2 games, and like your potential third loss sends you on the road for the first round of the playoffs, that's rough. But like this goes back to everything that we said in our preview pod. Like this division was going to be that good, and this division like has completely lived up to it. Like only the Bears have severely underperformed. Only them. Everybody else, Green Bay, that's a 10-win team. Minnesota looks like a Super Bowl contender. Yeah. And Sam Darnold, I think, should be a dark horse MVP candidate since we're just giving these shits out. But Sam Darnold's been great, like
he really has. He was awesome yesterday too.
Yeah, he's been amazing. You know what I'm saying, for what they need from him. Like he talked about the playoffs, but like we should all be seeded. Like I'm hoping. This is why I think the Lions, playing all their starters tonight against the 49ers in a game that's kind of meaningless. I think is a mistake. Like I would be gearing up everything I have for next week, against Minnesota. So, but that's going to be a titanic game as far as determining what the AFC picture looks like, because I think everything in the NFC is based off matchups. Same in the AFC, but like less so. The matchups really go like quarterback versus defense. When the NFC, you're thinking like whole teams. I know Philly is sitting there like, hey, man, y'all beat up on each other. Because I think Philly, for the most part, can beat any team in the NFC playoff picture. And I don't know if I can say the same about Detroit and to a lesser degree Minnesota.
Yeah. Frank, what are you thinking about this potential matchup? Yeah, you talk about yesterday's game too, the Packers and the Vikings, which was very close game. I mean, the Vikings controlled the game for most of it, but the Packers made a late push to steal it. What do you think about that division and how it's going to shake out, how it's going to determine the number one spot in the NFC?
Saturday Night Football has been blessed with 2 great matchups yesterday and next week. Like I don't know how I couldn't find a more fitting way to have a season finale than battling for the number 1 top seed in the NFC.
Yeah.
I have Minnesota. I think Minnesota's a better team right now. I think the injuries with Detroit it's a lot to overcome. Detroit can go from being the number 1 seed for 15 weeks to being the 5 seed and playing Tampa. And
a team they lost to this year.
Yeah, they can lose that game. Like
right.
Tampa playing good football right now, at least offensively. That could be a 41-38 type of game. I want to talk about the Packers though. We might be a year too early on the Packers. I know in our preview pod I had the Packers as number 1 seed coming out of the NFC.
Yeah.
What I've learned from the Packers this year is that they're not ready. they're not ready for big time. If you look at their schedule, they lost to the Vikings twice, lost to the Lions twice, they lost to the Eagles. This is your competition for the NFC. These are the guys that you have to play to get to the ultimate goal coming out of the NFC, and they lost all those games. They're 0-5 against those contenders, and I don't know what they want to be. Like I know when Josh Jacobs run the football, they have balance. They're tough to beat. The problem is when they're not running the football as well, and Jordan Love has to throw the football, who is going to make plays for you? Is it Jaden Reed? Is it Demarius Wicks? Is it Christian Watkins? He didn't play yesterday. They don't have a go-to guy, and I think in football, in your passing game, there needs to be a hierarchy of like guys you can trust, like a pecking order.
Yeah.
And that pecking order for the Packers is a revolving door, and there's no structure as far as hierarchy of who you can trust to make plays. And look, I don't care about the 14 points that they scored in the fourth quarter. Look, Minnesota's playing prevent. They kind of shut down. They kind of shut down early, but the Packers, I don't know if they're ready. I think they're a year away. They gotta get that receiving room in order as far as like who's gonna be your dog. And as far as Chicago, man, they need to go ahead and get ready for interviews next week. Like right after in the game into 3:30 at 3:35, you need to be footing interviews for replacements. It doesn't matter. The Seahawks game last week. Like I'm watching that game and like it's like fourth and 1 and you punt it. Like what? Like you have nothing to lose. Like why are you punting it? Like I don't understand. Like Eagles was too aggressive at times, and this coach is not aggressive enough. And again, more time management issues. And Caleb running for his life. Like there's no. The coaching staff there, it's an influx. There's no direction. There's no identity. There's no culture. If I'm Chicago, man, I am backing up the Brinks truck in Detroit for Ben Johnson, man. Like, what do you want? Do you want my unborn? You want my first unborn child? Like, what do you want to come to Chicago to save young Caleb, man? We can't have Caleb go through another year of just like violence and like just lack of like offensive line and lack of direction on the football field. But I'm ready for next week. I can't wait. This Darnold story is been beautiful to watch. I'll be the first to admit that I was wrong. I think I had Minnesota last in the division in our preview pod, and Darnold has shut me the fuck up. I'm so surprised by what he's doing. I shouldn't be surprised because he wasn't the number 3 pick of the draft. Like the arm talent's always been there. Like he can make all the throws. Like that's never been an issue with Sam Darnold. It's been decision making and just opportunities and just bad luck with just being in bad situations. But O'Connell's got him straightened out. He has 2 great weapons at receiver. He has a good running back. He has a great tight end. They can be in the Super Bowl, man. You can get Sam Darnold in the Super Bowl. This could be. If I'm Sam Darnold, I'm encasing my dick and put it in Canton and say, I did this shit. I'm that motherfucker. Like watching the post game and like watching like the guys, they show post game coverage and walking to the locker room and guys just spraying water on him. Like I'm genuinely happy for the guy. Like he's played so well and like O'Connell on the side, like just overseeing it, just watching Sam Darnold being shot by his teammates. That's for me what football is all about. Like that redemption story. And you get so many young quarterbacks, man, who go into these bad situations, come out of the draft, bad coaching, bad dad, bad owner, and they get buried. The confidence is shaken and broken. And to see a redemption story of this young man who's 27 years old, still very, very young, to see him bounce back, man, to me, that's what football is all about.
And, there's the chance that he might not even be the quarterback in Minnesota next year. I mean, that sounds crazy, but that Sam Darnold story, that there's still a lot to be told about that. So that'll be something interesting to watch as we go into the final week of the season and the playoffs. I just wanted to say the final thing on the Bears. Remember at one point, the Bears, the whole division was above 500. The Bears at one time were 4-2. They've lost 10 straight. They're 4-12. That Seahawks Bears game, I watched all of it. I was at home with my parents and family day after Christmas. That was brutal. That was like, just a horrible, horrible, horrible game. 6-3. The Seahawks got the win, but honestly,
everything we said about CJ Stroud in his line and then square and shit, by 3. Like that man was running for his life.
Yeah.
He was literally CJ was not running for his life like Caleb. Right. Like Caleb was snap, boom, take off. try to get out, try to find somebody. I mean, and same thing, like I don't know, I've talked about this. I think they've instructed him that they want him to take care of the ball and not turn the ball over. And you know what, man? Sometimes I need my young quarterback who's dynamic. Man, turn that bitch over a few times.
Let it fly.
But I need you to explore where you can be effective at all points of the field. I need you to explore your talent if you have that type of high end special skills, skill set. And they just kind of, it's like having a Ferrari and it's like you treating it like a Honda, you know what I'm saying? Like at a certain point that Ferrari is going to forget that it's Ferrari, and its mannerisms and the way it prepares and the way it instinctively plays is going to be more Honda-like, and you wasted a pick at that point. But I'm much more worried about Caleb because it seems like everything around him is breaking down. He hasn't been good. He has some good numbers. He's made some spectacular throws. There's been points where you can see okay, this is the special thing that we've seen. He's had some big boy drives, but collectively, cumulatively, he hasn't been good. And some of that, a little of it I put on him. There's been some accuracy issues. He's taken some sacks that he did not have to take, but for the most part, everything, the foundation around him has been bad. O-line has been horrifically bad. We talked about how he had these weapons, DJ Moore, I'm sorry, Roma Keenan Allen. All three of those guys have underperformed this year.
Yeah,
all three of those guys have underperformed. The coaching side, the route concepts have been jumbled. They've been in some ways just completely illogical. OC gone, head coach gone, the GM might be gone. So they need to really, really hit on head coach, who's going to be running that franchise going forward, running that team. What is the hierarchy going to be there? They need to absolutely hit on offensive line. They need to completely revamp that. They need to make sure the foundation, the garden, is good around him before expecting his roles to bloom perfectly. It's not going to work like that.
Yeah. No, well said. Well said. Moving on in the NFC, you got Philadelphia, who seems like they're pretty much locked into the 2 spot at the very worst. Philadelphia rolled over Dallas yesterday, thanks to Saquon Barkley, who broke over 2,000. So you got Saquon at 2K yards. Sunday he'll be possibly going for the record if he plays much against the New York Giants, a team he's very familiar with. How interesting how the schedule kind of works out, Frank. How the player that the Giants should have kept, should have paid. I mean, he wasn't asking for the world, but they let him go, and now he has a chance to break the all-time or the single-season rushing record held by Eric Dickerson on Sunday.
Yeah, Schefter reported that the Eagles are considering giving him a half to try to get the record. I say go for it. Fuck the Giants. If it's 30 carries, fuck it, 30 carries. If it's 25 carries, I want this day. I want that Sunday to be infamy for Giants fans, for the Giants brass. They deserve it. You deserve to have the Eric Dickerson record crushed and destroyed, and you be on the other end of it. Watching the Giants, what they did in Hard Knocks earlier this year, and that conversation, justifying paying Daniel Jones all that money, but not giving a third of that to Saquon that's crazy work. That's diabolical. That's diabolical behavior to do that to your best player. The reason why you guys made the playoffs a couple years ago wasn't because of Saquon, wasn't because of Daniel Jones, wasn't because of Dayball. It was because of Saquon. And as a fan, I will be tuned in. I want Saquon to break the record against those guys. And I hope when he does, I hope he gets a standing ovation. I hope there's a post-game interview. I hope there's a like when Kobe broke the scoring record, or when LeBron broke the scoring record when they stopped the game and they presented LeBron. I want the same shit to happen to Saquon. I want the Giants to have that shit ingrained in their fucking brains when he breaks that record.
Yeah, I love when teams and players should go for records. So I hope it actually happens. We'll see, though. Obviously, the Giants yesterday broke their losing streak. They lost 10 in a row. They beat the Colts to eliminate Indy from the playoff in the AFC. And now they're not even in the pole position for the number 1 pick. Now the Patriots are. And speaking of the Giants, did y'all see Shadur Sanders in Colorado's bowl game? He wore Giants colored cleats, kind of protecting.
Shadur is under the impression that he can choose what team he goes to. Like, I think his father has had too much impact on him. Like, you don't get to choose. We have a draft. You know,
why would you choose the Giants though? Like, choose better.
Shadur thinks he's as good as his dad was. Like, you're not. Like, Deion's a generational talent. Like, Deion's one of one at the position. You're not one of one at quarterback. You're good, but to sit there and like wear those cleats, like you said, Justin, why would you want to go there? Like, you watch the Giants fumble the bag with Saquon and they won yesterday on, like, you want the number one pick and you won. Like what the fuck are you doing? Like, it's a franchise that has no direction. And again, I remember I posed this question. I was like, who is the worst franchise, the Jets or Giants? I think we need to I know you said the Jets. We need to revisit this. You lost number one pick on accident. Like, think about that. You won on accident.
I mean, the Giants have won some Super Bowls. The Jets have won. They won one in like 1969 or something. I mean, like, literally the Super Bowl III was the last time they won the Super Bowl.
But I mean, as far as like this year, a singular year, like what the Giants have done, like going from the offseason until now, the Giants they've made some really bad decisions. Really bad decisions.
I think it's a tie. I think those two. Like, there are no winners. You're talking Jets, Giants. Like, it's just L's. That's all. It's just there's no winner.
Mid off. Mid off, man. Like, they're on the same tier of suck.
Yeah.
They just
they're
they go
side
to
by
like
side. Yeah.
They go like their bedrooms are on different hallways. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Jets are a team that intentionally tried to compete this year. Like, they had delusions of grandeur, but like delusions of like being a contending team, and they completely failed that. Like, completely. The Giants, I'm assuming, came through this year, saw this year as a rebuilding year, not intentionally losing, but like understanding that this was a year to like start building back through the draft, potentially through the quarterback position. And they failed completely at that too. Like, that, you can't even lose correctly. That's amazing. I won't kill the Giants completely, because if this was last year, and you had multiple quarterbacks that, at least for like the general population, felt like, okay, this is a quarterback that you can build around, then I would, okay. Like, I don't think there's one player for the Giants, the Raiders, anybody is like, okay, if we get this quarterback, we get Shadur Sanders, we get Cam Ward, we get, a guy from ASU or Penn State, Carson Beck or something like that, then this is somebody that we can like actually build around, and this actually starts our clock on building around this quarterback to compete, before we have to pay him X amount of dollars, then I would get it. That player's not in this draft.
No.
Like, I just don't see it. I could see the Giants. I actually think the Giants would be better served, even if they got the number one pick, and like trading that for multiple picks and like fixing multiple areas, starting to try to fix multiple areas. They got some young guys on defense, like shoring up both lines, shoring up the secondary, and then find your quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Maybe next year after, but like, none of these quarterbacks are going to deliver that for you. I think Shadur Sanders has the potential to eventually be a really good quarterback, but like, there's a lot of ifs in that, and it's going to be like so much situation based that I don't think he would be successful in New York as presently constructed anyway. Same with Cam Ward, same with any other quarterback, honestly, that's coming out this year. So I won't kill him fully, but like, there's no reason for you to try to win that game. Like, that's just, come on now.
Yeah.
Clip Drew Lock as he's walking by.
I mean, the only thing is you have a bunch of players who are trying to win the game who probably won't be on the team next year, or you have some players who won't. So they're trying to like put the best tape out there for their future, because they're going to be playing somewhere else next year. So I get why, it's hard to, like, you can't really control tanking in the NFL like you can like in basketball. It's not the same thing, but yeah, still not. that yesterday wasn't the time to end that losing streak.
Yeah, and another problem they have too is that if let's say they do get in the one pick and they want to trade down, what player in this draft is worth any team trading up for to give up multiple first round picks for? There's no Caleb in this draft. There's no Julius Peppers in this draft. There's no generational big guy that I could lead my franchise with in this draft that's worth giving up 2 firsts and a second or 3 firsts and a third. Like I don't. I mean, if there is, who's that guy?
That person's not stepped forward yet.
Yeah. So I mean, shit. The 5th pick won't hurt you then. Get your tackle. You know what I'm saying? Unspectacular move that people are paying, but ultimately pays off 3 years from now. Cool.
Yeah. So wrapping up the NFC playoff picture, we got the Rams who have won the NFC West. They're going to be in. You have Tampa Bay right now who has they're above right now. The only division that's still up for grabs is the South, NFC South. Tampa is slotted in that spot right now, with Atlanta still having a somewhat of a chance this weekend to maybe grab it back. And then last night we had the Washington game against Atlanta, where the Commanders won in overtime to clinch a playoff spot. Frank, what are your thoughts on the Commanders getting to the playoffs in the first year with Jaden Daniels as a quarterback?
That's the one thing I did call in our September show was that Washington would make the playoffs. Watching that game last night, man, I was texting my group chat last night. I said I need a 10-part series of Penix versus Jaden Daniels for the next 12 years. This is going to be fun. Both these quarterbacks. And I have a little mini rant as well. This is why it's important to draft quarterbacks who are experienced. Bo Nix, Penix, Jaden Daniels. You have an opportunity to have all 3 in the playoffs. There's a chance. And when you have guys who've played a lot of football and have won at multiple levels, you're setting yourself up for long-term success as a franchise. And the NFL needs to trim back to not being afraid of drafting a 24-year-old who has 45, 50 starts in college, who has faced adversity and who has triumphed adversity. And watching both those quarterbacks yesterday, there were times I forgot they were rookies. like Penix looked way better than Cousins looked the last 8 weeks, and it wasn't even close. There was a couple of throws that he missed, but I didn't feel like watching him that he put the ball in harm's way a lot. When Kirk Cousins was at the helm, every time he threw the ball, I'm like, is this going to be an interception? Is he going to throw it into triple coverage? Is he going to throw the ball 5 yards short of the sticks on 4th down when the game's on the line? Like the football IQ of these two guys are just impeccable. And when you look at the Commanders, man, that new ownership. Dan Quinn, they have done a total makeover in less than 12 months, and it's beautiful to watch. I run to the TV screen to watch the Washington Commanders play football now. I've never said that in my adult life. Outside maybe that year that RG3 was there. Yeah, this is fun, and I can't wait to see what these guys do over the next 18 to 24 months, 30, 72 months. These kids are ready. And now is the bidding process of putting guys around them to complement their talents. But the Commanders are going to be fun to watch. So they're the 6th seed right now or 7th seed.
Yeah, let's see. Right now,
7th seed. Okay, so they'll play Philadelphia, and I don't know. With Jalen Hurts, if he's not cleared by then, you could get Pickett against Jaden Daniels, and if that's the case, that's anybody's game. But I don't go into that situation thinking that Jaden Daniels is overwhelmed. I think he is a guy that can step on the field and win any given Sunday, and he's only going to get better. But I love what Atlanta and I love what Washington are doing moving forward, and I can't wait to see the development.
Yeah. Jaden Daniels especially, he's just so poised. I mean, I've been saying that all year long. He's is one of the coolest customers out there every game. It seems like he's not fazed by anything. Tristan, what are your thoughts on the rest of the NFC playoff picture? With you have the Rams, you have the Commanders are now back in the playoffs. Just how that's kind of taking shape.
Again, I'm still ashamed of myself for not picking the Commanders to come out of that division. I mean, shout out to Philly.
Cowboys. With the fucking Cowboys. Man, it's crazy. Crazy talk.
Coward. It was so cowardly of me. No, I mean, honestly, it's just like we talked about the Bears. We talk about the Texans and like how are you structuring this garden around like this super important flower that you want to bloom. You know, a lot of us, the prevailing wisdom has been for a lot, like get your superstar player and then everything else will take care of itself. And at the quarterback position, it's the opposite. It's completely the opposite. Like you need to have a structured environment around. Jaden Daniels has a good enough offensive line. And, if there are breakdowns, he obviously has the ability to scramble, even though it's not like his primary thing. He absolutely has the ability to scramble. He broke the record for, rushing yards for a QB for a rookie ever. So again, shout out to him on that. But you got the playmakers. You have, the defense is coming along. Like it's not good by any means, but like it's coming along. You have good coaching, play calling. Like there are things that are set up for Jaden Daniels to succeed. And then all he has to do is play within himself, step out when he needs to like do something special. And Frank talked about the experience, the reps. Like he looks comfortable in big situations. This is a guy who's played in big games in college, big rivalry games. He's played in the SEC. Like he's gone against great defenses. Like this, so many things that he's seen that have prepared him to be successful this year. So like they've done everything to like help him be successful. And then he's just special by himself. Like I think Jaden Daniels would be special pretty much in any situation. Yeah. I don't know if he, would have the wins, but like everything's set up for them to like really be a powerhouse in the NFC going forward. The main thing is just keeping him healthy. If you keep Jaden Daniels healthy, that team is a lot for 9 wins at least in a bad year. He's just that good. Like it's not really the athleticism is what jumps out. But for me, like a guy who has that much ability, but can rein himself in and say, hey, I'll take this 5-yard throw, just to get to second down, third down, that maturity. That's what, when Frank talks about the experience, that's what it is. It's not experience on the spectacular plays. It's the experience to know that, hey, I don't have what I'm looking for on this first or second down. Let me just kind of like get a basic positive play or throw it away and get, negative 0 yards. I know I can get this back on third down. Or I know, hey, we can punt it away and I can make this up. I can make up 10 points like they just did last night, in a short amount of time. Like that comes with experience. And that's a dude that's primed to be a big time player in this league. And I think he's already one right now.
Yeah.
I think too, real quick, I watched the post game and like Zach Ertz is a 14-year NFL veteran. Zach Ertz was gushing over Jaden Daniels. There's an age gap of like maybe 14 years, 15 years between the two players. And I'm watching this veteran just glow up and gush over what Jaden Daniels is. And when you have a 24-year-old quarterback who's having that kind of effect on veteran guys who've done so much in the league, like Zach Ertz, that tells me that they found the right guy.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it's great for not only for Washington, for the league, to have a rookie this good get in the playoffs. And once again, for a team that's been kind of quarterback starved, to have them finally have somebody that looks like can be their quarterback for a decade. That's also a nice thing for the Commanders. Is there anything else from the NFL y'all want to talk about before we briefly talk about college stuff? The last thing I'll mention is, so the schedule, a little bit of a change last night for week 18. You got 2 Saturday games. You've got the Browns at the Ravens at 3:30 on Saturday. Then you've got the Bengals at the Steelers. So the AFC North will be determined on Saturday. And then on Sunday, of course, the final game of the season, arguably the biggest game of the season, will be the Vikings at the Lions, 7:20 on Sunday night. So get your just give you your viewing schedule in order. But yeah, should be a fun final week of the NFL season. Okay, let's talk about college briefly. I got to be honest. We got the playoffs coming up starting tomorrow. We have one of the semifinal games tomorrow night, and then we have 3 on New Year's Day. I haven't watched a ton of the bowls this past week or so, but there was something big that happened in the Pop-Tarts Bowl that I wanted to discuss. Cam Ward, the Miami quarterback, he he broke the all-time NCAA pass TD record in the first half, and then opted out of the second half and just shut it down. Do y'all have any problem with the player doing that in the bowl game, Tristan?
This question was set up for me to rant. I'm trying. I don't want to rant. No. Short answer. No, I have no problem with it. I mean, what we've seen traditionally over the last 7 to 10 years is that guys skipping this as a whole, just skipping the game, and not playing at all. This is the fucking Pop-Tart Bowl. Like, this is not something we're taking seriously, man. Like, they had
the best bowl.
Mascots, like, like ripping the plastic off and shit. Like, they had Pop-Tart sprinkles on the sidelines. This is a spectacle, right? Like, this is a television event masquerading as a meaningful football game. That game means absolutely nothing. And this is not a Cam Ward thing. It's not Cam Ward's responsibility to validate the importance of the Pop-Tart Bowl. It's simply not. You know what I'm saying? So no, I had no problem with him doing it. Honestly, in the first half, it looked like he had no business being out there anyway. Like, that's a professional quarterback, like who looked like he was playing against a Division II college. Like, they did whatever they wanted to when he was in the game. Yeah, it was done. Like, he had something else to prepare for.
Yeah.
And my issue, yes, I understand. Like, there are these larger themes in sports about like sportsmanship and teamwork and being part of something bigger than yourself. But we also forget college is about preparing you for the next level, whatever that next level is.
Yeah.
Like, law firm, med school, or whatever the hell, journalism, like whatever.
Yeah.
Working at a television network, it's to prepare you for the next step. And he's done with that step in his life. So yeah. And then colleges, the University of Miami did not have a problem with him doing it because they want to showcase who's next up.
Yeah.
Like, they understand we're not playing for a national champion. We're not playing for something that's going to significantly enhance our status as a college football program. Like playing in the actual playoff, or, you know what I'm saying? Like having a real shot at national championship. So like him playing in the second half of this game is going to do what? Put this record even further out of reach. Like, the next step is showcasing who are the guys who are next up, who's the next quarterback, who's the next, on the depth chart. So I could care less. I could care less about these bowl games as it is. Yeah. I definitely don't care about him taking a half off. Good for him.
I think the one thing I think, honestly, I'm with you. I don't care about these games. I didn't watch this game. These games don't matter, but it's kind of like, you think of like, well, it's kind of a selfish thing to take yourself out in halftime because you've got, this NFL future ahead of you, but you're also kind of creating maybe a small issue for yourself in the fact that you're basically quitting a game at halftime. And now you'll have to like talk about this until, through the draft process. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it won't matter at all. Maybe it won't, but
Mitch Schwartz, former Chiefs O-lineman.
Yeah.
He was like, hey man, not a single NFL team is gonna ask him about this. Not a single one. Okay. This is so far under the radar. Again, like, this game means nothing. I can understand. I completely understand that. Again, these larger themes. You want to finish what you started. Like, I do appreciate Shador and Travis Hunter playing the whole game. They said it after the game, like, hey, we want to finish what we started. Yeah. I get that. That's an individual decision. Not everybody's walking that path. And again, it doesn't benefit the school for him to continue to play. It doesn't benefit the program. I'm sure head coach of Miami, Cristobal, was like, hey, I'm sure he was cool with it because he also has ulterior motives. And again, I want to see what my backup quarterback's going to look like. You know what I'm saying? So I don't see it.
Yeah. Frank, your thoughts?
the great Kanye West prophets once said, bow in the presence of greatness, because right now thou hast forsaken us. You should be honored by my lateness. Thou will even show up to this fake shit. The Pop Top Ball is, I don't know what the fuck that even is. I didn't know it was even a thing until I brought it up today. Like the fact that you have a bowl called the Pop Top Bowl.
It's year 3, man. Where you been?
Again, like thank you, college football, for like not making these bowls fucking matter. I don't watch any of these bowls. If the bowl doesn't begin with the letter CFP, I'm not watching it.
Yeah.
For one. For two, you think the Giants or the Raiders are going to give a fuck that this man played a half of football and didn't play the rest of it? You think Antonio Pierce is going to give a fuck if he played the third or fourth quarter of a bowl game that didn't fucking matter, that probably had 5,000 people in the stands? No, he's fine. He's fine. Like, this is a business. Like, if you're a GM, you're gonna do your due diligence to get the best quarterback possible for your franchise. And I'm sorry, a kid deciding not to play in a Pop-Tart Bowl is not gonna be the end all be all. Who gives a shit? It's a Pop-Tart Bowl. Like, if you're Miami, you're just happy that he even suited up for the game. You know, I mean, I wouldn't have played if I was Cam, but whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, I just think a lot of people start off the day with Pop-Tarts. I think you're letting them down. Okay. No, I mean, like, you know, they come in a 2-pack, and so I guess he just got to have one because he only played the first half. Is that, and, you know, potential sponsorship, I guess, probably out the window in the future. Maybe not, but
he throws 4,000 yards next year. He'll get all the sponsorships and then some.
Yeah. No, I don't know. It's just a funny topic. I mean, we laugh about the Pop-Tart Bowl, but like it's kind of distinguished itself as one of the few of the non-important bowls that people kind of look forward to because of the spectacle, because of how ridiculous it is. So, I mean,
imagine getting hurt in the Pop-Tart Bowl. That to me is more scary than actually not playing in the Pop-Tart Bowl, playing in a half. Like Jalen Smith got hurt in a bowl game years ago, and it destroyed his draft stock. Like he was a top 10 pick coming out, and he got hurt, and he ended up going in, I think, second, third round to the Cowboys, but he missed out on millions of dollars. I would not play. I mean, I guess he wanted the record, but I wouldn't have risked myself to potentially hurt myself in a Pop-Tart Bowl.
Yeah, wait though. Just in 5 years from now, we have the Rose Bowl presented by Pop-Tarts. That's going to happen. The CFP title game will be the Pop-Tart Bowl. That's all I got for college. I'm looking forward to the playoff games until they actually kick off, and then I'm not sure if I'm going to see much that's any good. Maybe the Rose Bowl will be entertaining. I think the Sugar Bowl I think Notre Dame might beat Georgia. Honestly, y'all have any predictions before we get out here for the quarterfinal games?
I think Ohio State beats Oregon. That's my pick of the week. I think Ryan Day is going to unleash on Oregon. They made a lot of mistakes in that first game. They left a lot of points on the field that first game. I think Ryan Day didn't forget that, and more importantly, I think the offense didn't forget that. I think they're gonna unleash on Oregon. That could be a 10-point game against Oregon.
Good call.
I actually think Oregon will win. I don't have any grand analysis for it. I think Oregon's a better team than Ohio State. I can see Ohio State winning. Yeah. Penn State's going to do something stupid. That's my prediction. Arch Manning will end up playing about 30% of the snaps at least. Those are my predictions.
Okay.
I think Texas puts 50 on Arizona State.
Texas playing.
I think a 14-point underdog. I think 14-point spread is an insult. I watched Arizona State this year. They're not. Then they don't have the same class of athletes that Texas has. This could be a bloodbath. This could be.
Texas is not very explosive though.
They're not.
They don't put points on the board very quickly either. So I mean,
they don't. But I'll give you an example. Clemson has 4 and 5 stars across that D line.
Yeah.
Texas went for 300 yards against Clemson. Yeah. Easily. you might get 9-10 yards of pop against Arizona State. Arizona State is so little up front. You have the Outland Trophy winner at left tackle for Texas. You have 3 first-round picks on that O-line. They're going to road grade Arizona State. And then if they score 40, I'm disappointed. It's going to be another 48 points.
Well, I look forward to seeing what happens. We'll talk about that next week as we wrap up the final week of the NFL season. Also, any final thoughts we get out of here, Tristan, Frank? Anything you want to say?
Quinn Ewers, you better fuck this shit up for me, man.
A lot of pressure on Quinn Ewers. Yeah.
A lot of NFL teams' futures rest on the arm of Carson Wentz.
or the legs, or he might run a lot. You never know.
The legs, but mostly the arm of Carson Wentz. It is 2017.
Happy New Year, everybody. Which year? I'm not sure, but yeah, great way to leave it. Yeah, I think we can top that.
Carson still may run the Bengals out of the playoffs come Sunday.
Well, he might do it 3 times.
or that.
So you could have Carson Wentz handing off to Carson Steele. That's got to be the first time in NFL history where you have a Carson combo. I don't know. Back in the day, Carson was more of a common name, so maybe not. Maybe like in the 50s, there were a bunch of dudes named Carson, but pretty strange stuff. But I'll be watching that game just to see what happens with those two guys. Anyway, we are wrapping it up here. I just want to thank everybody in the live chat. Thanks to King B. Johnson and to Yesenia Martinez for joining us. That's the best way to join us, is join us in the live chat. And hey, if you're watching us here on YouTube, do all the YouTube stuff. Like, subscribe, comment. We appreciate all that stuff. It helps us out. And if video podcasts are not your thing, that's okay, because we're also we have audio. The audio version of this show is on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So you can listen there. Be sure to subscribe, give us a 5-star review. We appreciate that. And also, please follow us on social media. We're at Watchers Basement, and use the hashtag Watchers Basement. So that about does it for us. So for Tristan, for Frank, I'm Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Happy New Year. And have a good night. Bye-bye.
Save us, Arch Manning.